All right, and we're going to look at how to answer these graph interpretation questions. And the first thing I want you to do is on each one of these graphs, the x and y axis did not show up as clearly as I would have liked. So we're going to darken them in a little bit. You can see that these numbers right here are down are on one line, but the actual x-axis is just above that. It's this line right here. It needs to be darkened in or else we're going to start having a little bit of a problem. The y-axis also, it's a vertical line that's beside the numbers, not underneath the numbers. And if we don't draw those axes in the same place, we'll get a bunch of different answers and it gets confusing. Okay, so darken those axes in. I'm going to go ahead and darken it in on the one below it as well. And you'll want to do that same thing on each one of the graphs in this packet, and I apologize for that. Okay, we have two things that we're doing. We're writing some answers verbally in words and some answers numerically with math. So the first thing is name the x-intercepts. And the x-intercepts is where the graph crosses or touches the x-axis. Most of the graphs we're going to do is going to actually cross it, but it can just touch it. And you can look over here and I'll just put a little dark mark on there. Right here at -3, and right here at 5. And so the answer to that first question, y equals 0 when x equals -3, or when x equals 5. One of the things I want you to be focusing on is understanding that this is two ways. These two things are asking the same question. The x-intercepts are the same thing as asking when does y equal 0. And we should be able to answer that in two ways. One, what does it mean, the verbal answer? And two, where does it actually occur at what x values? Okay? The second thing is to look at where the graph is above the x-axis. And this is when we want to look at where the x coordinates are greater than 0. Now the x is greater than 0 is the same thing as saying when is the graph above the x-axis. Actually, we'll write that down. We're going to kind of try to identify where that answer is. This is the same question. Saying that y is greater than 0 is the same thing as saying when is the graph above the x-axis. So we're going to color it in first. This top of this v. This graph is up above the x-axis. And what I want you to see is it's between these two numbers right here, these two x values that we just marked as the x-intercepts. So those are the two critical pieces of information. This happens when x coordinates are between -3 and 5. That's the verbal way to answer it. And now we want to answer it in the numerical way. We had some notes on how to do between statements with inequalities before. It looks like this. You put the smallest number first, is less than x, which stands for all the answers. So -3 is less than all of the answers. All of the answers are less than 5. This is called the between statement. Okay? And that's the way I want that question answered, both ways, verbally and mathematically. So I'm going to switch colors. The graph is below the x-axis, and that's the same question as saying when is y less than 0, when is y negative. And we're going to sort of color that in. I suggested that you do this with color or with highlighters until you get a handle on it. And these are not between two different numbers. These are in two separate places. One batch of these problems is over here to the left. Now we look at this graph, it is going down. I'm drawing an arrow that indicates it's going down, but it's also headed off to the left. And we're going to be describing its x value, so we're going to look at the left. So the first answer is to the left of -3. And we write that this way, x is less than -3. I can't quite fit it on that little line right there, so let's do it below it. And then I'm going to look over here to the other side. It is also heading downhill, but it is heading to the right. So the second half of the answer is right of 5. And the word or in between those two statements, x is greater than 5. So we have two different answers. We have this between answer here, and we have this separated answer with the word or. Okay? That is above and below the x-axis. All right? So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to look at that same graph, But instead of looking at where it's above and below the x-axis, we're going to look at where it is increasing, okay? And increasing is the same thing as saying slope positive. So again, I'm going to color that in. This time I'm going to use blue. This graph is increasing until it gets to right there. This first half of the graph, until it gets here. And when we do this, we always put the x coordinates to describe this. So once again, the graph is down and to the left here. Okay? So what we are going to say is that the x coordinates are left of, and you don't want to pick that 4, you want to pick the x coordinate that goes along with that, left of 1. We're going to write that mathematically. X is less than 1. I'm going to switch colors on the screen, and I'm going to look for where the graph is decreasing. That's the same thing as saying slope is less than 0 or slope is negative, and that's the second half of the graph. Also going down, but this time going to the right. So we're going to say the coordinates are to the right of 1, and that answer will be x is greater than 1. The idea is to take a look at the graph and to be able to describe it in 2 different ways. Where is it above and below, and where is it increasing versus where it is decreasing. Okay, let's do a second. Okay. Name the x-intercepts. Okay, let me first start by darkening in that x-axis and that y-axis. And again, I apologize for this. This is the way Excel does the graphs. The numbers are down one line lower than the actual axis. So watch out that you are darkening those axes in correctly, or we'll get all different answers even when we know what we're doing, and that makes everybody confused. Okay? So name the x-intercepts. Where does it cross the x-axis? And that's going to be right there at that number 3. Okay? That's at x equals 3. Okay? And that is where it crosses or touches the x-axis. Okay, that's what the x-intercepts are. Above the x-axis, I'll do this in red. That's going to be this section here. Okay, and it's headed up and to the right. We want to take the horizontal way it's headed, to the right. And we're going to say this one, x coordinates are right of that 3 that we got in the first part of it. Okay, and then we're going to write that as an inequality. Above the x-axis is the same thing as y is greater than 0. Right of 3 is the same thing as saying x is greater than 3. We'll switch colors. Blue. Where is the graph below? Which is this end down here. And it's headed down, but it's also headed to the left. And so we are going to say this happens when it is left of 3. Okay? Y is less than 0, that's the math way of stating it. And left of 3 can be written as x is less than 3. Well, it doesn't have that between look at the first part. Okay? Second kind of analysis is not where is it above and below, but it's where is it increasing. That means the slope is positive. And in this graph, everywhere. This graph is always increasing, it is never decreasing. There's a couple of different ways of saying that. You can write the word everywhere on your paper, or you can say all real numbers for x. X is all real numbers. That means for every single x, any place that you park yourself, any place that you stand on this graph, as you move along to the right, it's going to increase. All right, and the second question is, where is the graph decreasing? That is, where is the slope negative? And you could write never, or you could write the little circle with a slash through it, which means no solution. We also create that FOL apostrophe. Okay, so we did those 2 examples in class, and we also did the notes for just general inequalities leading up to it. There are 3 more graphs to go along with this. I want to remind you one more time. So please go in and darken that x and y axis. I'm not going to do it on the rest of them, but darken that x and y axis so that you can see it very quickly. Okay, excellent.